Hi, I'm Maureen McGuigan, Deputy Director of Arts and Culture for Lackawanna County, and thanks for joining us for another episode of Lackawanna County Arts and Culture Live, where we talk to and hear from our great artists in the county. Tonight we have, I like this little bit of balance, some poetry and painting. So we're going to start off with a conversation with longtime arts advocate and artist who works in multidisciplines, who's also on our Arts, Culture, and Education Council, Alicia Grega, is going to actually read poetry tonight from her new book, Nostalgia, and then followed by Allison LaRussa, who's been involved in many of our programs over the years, who's going to talk about her painting process and do a demonstration of an acrylic painting for us. So again, thank you for watching. Thanks to Electric City Television for being our partner on this, and let's bring on Alicia. Well, welcome, Alicia Grega, my longtime friend and amazing artist in several, that's what we're going to talk about here, because you're just, well, you've been a longtime art supporter. Gosh, not to get too nostalgic, which is the title of your book of poems, but you know, we've known each other a long time. When I first moved back, I was just so impressed with how involved you are, and you were a writer too and a playwright. So
I remember that day at Tuesdays on the Ridge. I cornered you, and I said, you have to move back here because I don't want to be the only female playwright in Scranton.
It's funny, Tuesdays on the Ridge is the second shout out. I mean, that was what was kind of cool. That was sort of, I mean, there was stuff happening, but I feel like with First Fridays and Tuesdays on the Ridge and the AFA Gallery doing stuff, there was like this momentum that's just continued. I mean, would you agree? I should say one of the things is when the Electric City had a column, you're also a great art critic and columnist, used to write the most amazing articles in addition to being an artist. So how have you seen the landscape change in the arts here?
It's changed so much. I think the recession that happened back in, what was it, 2008, and the transition to digital, social media, it was really hard at the newspaper. I mean, we lost the classifieds, and some theater companies went out of business. That's around when we lost Electric Theater Company, and I know Scranton Public Theater kind of downsized. It was cool because I then spent the next 5 years working on the Jason Miller Playwrights Project and all of that, but there was definitely a switch, I think, from the bigger kind of traditional way we used to make art and put art out into the world. I think that's about when we started to change. You know, we started to look at smaller, less expensive ways to do things, and you know, now here we are in the pandemic and we're trying to figure out how to do everything digitally. So it's been weird, you know, for me. I used to know everything that was going on, and when I left the newspaper in 2016, now I'm like, how do people find out about what's going on in the arts? Because that used to be my job, was to tell people what was going on in the arts. So it's definitely interesting trying to stay in touch.
Yeah, and now as we reinvent ourselves, like you said, but I think that art is always adaptive and creative, and it's a little bit of a struggle now, but I think it'll...
Yeah, we are cockroaches. You can't get rid of us.
I love that. But jumping back to your artistic side, I mean, introducing you is hard because you do so much. I mean, that's one of your beautiful paintings in the background. You're also, I know you also through, you know, you're an amazing director. We worked on several projects together, one about the women in the labor movement, which if it weren't for you, I don't think that, you know, it was a very kind of educational play, but you really made it, I think, art. So we've done a number of things together, readings at the AFA Gallery. So you're, in addition to being a theater artist and writer, you're a director, you write poetry, which we're going to hear today. So what is that like? Do different types of, do the art forms sort of inform each other? Oh, photographer, forgot that. You're an amazing photographer. And how do you juggle all of that? And, you know, do they, I guess that's the word I'm looking for, inform, or does each art form bring out something different in you?
I think they do. One of the reasons I like poetry is because for me it's a very visual medium. It's all about the images, you know, that you're creating. And directing is the same way. You're creating images on the stage. I think for a writer, I'm very visual, which is why I kind of tended toward playwriting and screenwriting. And that's all about what do you see right now, you know? And they inform each other, yes. But I think the drawback is if maybe I had just picked one thing, you know, starting out, I probably would have been able to get further with it. I mean, it depends on your definitions of success, but I think one of the reasons, like I'm all over the place. I can't even finish a sentence here, but I like to kind of go with my gut, with what I'm feeling. What do I want to do today? I think art is just part of my everyday life. It's like breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So you don't want to eat the same meal every day. Um, so I
Yeah,
make
I
different
think there's
things.
a benefit to that, especially in today's world where I think our existence is more collage like. A lot of people are combining things. I didn't even ask you about your artistic journey. That's a question I've been asking people, and I know you had a theater degree and you just finished your MFA in playwriting. How did you start out as an artist in your life?
I think I started out as an outcast, and I always loved. I went to see my aunt in a production of Godspell when I was in second grade, and she was on stage, and I loved that show. I loved that musical. It like made my heart feel like all kinds of crazy ways, and that I think set the seed that I could be a person that was creating the art, not just sitting in the audience, because that was my aunt. She was 10 years older than me. Beth Zero, shout out, Wonderstone Gallery. So yeah, so I was kind of awkward. I read mostly. I was really a reader. I remember in sixth grade I did an adaptation of an Isaac Asimov short story for a book report, and I played a man and I wore a peach suit because it was the 80s and that was all I could find, and it was really awkward. But I loved all of that from the beginning. But yeah, it wasn't really till high school that I took drama. I got up the guts. And Mrs. Rickard, North Pocono High School, huge inspiration for me. She knew that I wasn't an actor, for as much as, like, even now I get nervous even just talking sometimes. It's fun because I teach effective speaking, so I try to tell them you're never not going to be nervous. You just have to learn to work through it. Um, but yeah, she let me be an assistant director. She let me cast. We did a short production of The Lottery by Shirley Jackson, and I got to do the casting. And then she let me adapt a Nathaniel Hawthorne short story, and we actually did it. So I was like, that was my first chance to see there were other things that you could do besides be an actor.
Yeah, it's great. And I was just thinking another part of your life is you're also on our Arts, Culture, and Education Council, and you had a television show on Electric City Television. So I know you're really dedicated to supporting artists. So do you want to talk a little bit about that show and that sort of role that you play and trying to make the arts succeed here in Northeastern PA?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I I kind of stopped where I left off. I got my bachelor's degree in theater, but then, I wasn't going to have a job doing that. I had kids right away after college, and so I got a job at the newspaper, writing about art and what other people were doing. And I still managed to kind of continue to do my own work, but I found a huge thrill in helping people tell their stories, helping get the word out about projects. And I really realized how much advocacy needed to be done because people didn't think about art as part of their daily life the way that I did and the way that I thought that they could and they should. And it's funny now in my art class that I teach at Lackawanna College, that's a huge part of the goal is make sure they don't leave hating art and can think about how they can include art in their lives when they're adults. But yeah, at the newspaper, I mean, I got to do that for 15 years, and then the Running Lines television show, I really was like, great, this is my chance to continue to do that kind of work. But then the pandemic came along and all the theater productions got canceled. So I don't know what we're going to do with that show. I'm going to have to talk to Chris Bolton over at Electric City Television. And
There are big partners here. I think they've been very busy during the pandemic as we shift. So I'm sure you'll come up with a creative way.
yeah,
Well,
I mean, plays will come back. Eventually, we'll be allowed to be in the same room with other people and not worry about, you know, contagion. So we just got to wait it out.
well, I don't want to take up too much time till we get to your reading, but just one more, I love, in a lot of your social media, and this ties into your what you're going to read. So you're always seeming to get inspiration from everywhere. So do you want to talk a little bit about that, and also what was the inspiration behind the poetry you're going to read from Nostalgia?
Sure. I had my first book of poetry in about, I think it was February 2016 when I was doing a reading. I had stuff from years just accumulated, going all the way back to the 90s, and I never did anything with it. I think that's one of the downfalls of working at the newspaper for so long is I was getting published every week. I didn't feel the need to prove myself, writing was just something that I did. I did my plays in the community. I was happy just to be part of that kind of local art movement. And so then here we are all these years later. I'm not at the newspaper anymore, and now I transitioned into academia, and I need to publish. It's a thing. Like if you want to get a job, you've got to have this kind of public work. So I did my first book, and that was really just kind of everything that I never published. And then I went to grad school. I got my MFA, and I was really focusing on screenwriting and playwriting and scripts. But every once in a while, it felt good just to like quick dash something off. If I had an image or a feeling or just a moment in time that felt like this is something that needs to be recorded, not in my journal, but in a piece that I want to share with other people, it just kind of got written down into a poem. And then recently, in this spring, I kind of, not going to get too personal here, but I suffered a tremendous heartbreak and really just wanted to close the chapter, close that book. Anything I feel like I write from here on out is a new book. And I had gotten into this concept of the idea of nostalgia, where you look back and it's not all rosy, rose-colored. It's kind of like, wow, that kind of hurt, and maybe this could have gone a different way. And, when you have as many years under you as I do, you kind of can see where things went wrong, and maybe, it's not all unicorns and rainbows, although we live through it, we survive, and we learn better how to deal with pain and suffering and those things in a way.
All right, I'm going to jump out, but I do have to give a shout out. It was so nice to have Miranda Patel, your daughter, on the last show, and I know Frances, your other daughter, is very creative. She's hairstyling and makeup. So what was it like? I think your children really benefited from growing up through the arts. So you must be very proud, and I think that's why exposing kids to art is so important. So I don't know if that's really a question, but do you have any thoughts on that?
I think it's funny because Miranda is, a studio art major now, and she feels that that's a legitimate thing to do. She found this, and she's written a book of poetry. She's found that this also is a way for her to cope with her demons and her difficulties in life, and she makes beautiful, colorful, celebratory things out of it. Frances she's one of the funniest people I've ever known. She's got a kind of dark, biting sense of humor, and I always tell her, you got to put that in your stand-up routine. You got to put that in your stand-up routine. But I think she kind of went the other way, being exposed to art, and her rebellion was to be the opposite of me. So she kind of became a little more preppy, and but she's definitely got the artist in her. She's a hairdresser and a stylist, and she's been coming out with like the craziest outfits anymore. I love it. It's colorful and festive, and she'll just go to a bar on West Side and she's like fine, with that. So she's kind of finding she's not afraid. She definitely is confident. So
well, that's great. It's so nice to see that. Well, we're going to get to the main part, which is you. I'm always love hearing your work and your poetry. So I'm going to jump out and spotlight you, and then I'll just jump back in to thank you when you're finished. So, all right, let me.
Thanks, Maureen. This is my book here. It's a little paperback, Nostalgia. I'm not trying to sell copies of the book. I'm just kind of letting you know that everything is in here. And I already talked about how it came about and where it came from. So I have a few poems for you that I'm going to share. This first one I think is a little more fun. It's about one of my favorite movies, and maybe that's all I'll say for right now. The Dance. I cry every time I see La Bamba. Not when the plane crashes and Richie dies and everybody cries, but when Lou Diamond Phillips walks out on stage and brandishes his cheekbones at the crowd. Here's a little bit of a rattlesnake. Then Los Lobos comes out of his guitar. Arriba, arriba. Raw punk, sneer, questioning the status quo, Elvis, the pelvis, rotation of the hips. Kids in the audience don't know what hit them, but it stimulates their lower chakra, and they are energy vampires. They stand and scream and suck up the future. Skirts swish down the aisles. It's still 1958, but they are ahead of their time, basking on rock and roll in the California sun. They don't care that they don't know the words or what the words mean, and they don't need a critic to tell them it's good. Soy Capitan. Superstruction is building on what exists to make something more out of what already is. Not because what is not good enough, but to make a mark, to prove you are alive. Because creativity. Because we can't help it. Una poco de gracia. Valens would be sued today. Just a teenager who didn't even speak Spanish, but turned a Mexican folk song from Veracruz with an Afro-Caribbean son jarroco rhythm into a call to the masses, a call for life. Capitalists kill rattlesnakes for worse, for just existing in their space. Who owns the copyright to the melting pot? It's not enough to make art anymore. You have to make capital. La Bamba. The name of a dance from the Spanish bambolear, a verb imploring you to shake or to stomp. Any wonder it's a protest song now? Bamba, bamba, bamba. Just gonna stop this for a second. I love the movie La Bamba, obviously. I've been watching it for a really long time, and my kids love it, and we just got to watch it together again recently. And it was a lot of fun to see that. I highly recommend it if you haven't seen it. It is the first time Lou Diamond Phillips was in a movie. It says, I didn't know that really until I watched it recently. I kind of forgot, or the first time I saw it was like actually in the 80s, so I wasn't paying attention. But it's a great film, and I think it holds up really well considering all the time that's gone by. So we are gonna move ahead now to my next piece. This is a new poem, and I'm kind of been obsessed with obituaries. Maybe I should start out by saying I was reading them for a long time. Every time I got the paper, you know, I'd look to see what they said, what they didn't say, see if there's anybody you know. You know, I spent about 7.5 years going to 12-step meetings pretty regularly, and unfortunately, you would see people there often that you had known that just couldn't keep up the fight. So I noticed a pattern over time, and I noticed a lot of women, especially middle-aged women, maybe a little bit older than me, a little younger than my mom, who just had terrible fuzzy pictures, or I wouldn't want to say too much of the poem. I guess I should stop talking. But it kind of just started to haunt me, I guess I should say. So I ended up writing this. It's gone through a few revisions. This is a piece that was actually published in the River and South Review. So it's also in the book. So it's called Her Loss. Every few months, I take a picture of myself and make it easy to find, so they won't have to look long when I die. The struggle against the camera is real. The French call us jolie lad, we, the unpretty, the unphotogenic. Maybe it's vain to want a clear shot, a better fade out than the blurry, pixelated women of a certain age cut from the background of family gatherings. The women who lift a hand in front of their face when they see a camera coming. I've come to think of my forced smiles and experimental cocks of the head as a form of self-care, a symbol of my worth, a refusal to become invisible. At work in the copy center, marijuana-drenched mourners present a homemade prayer card, a typo in the Lord's Prayer. Their lost lady's image shot from a webcam. Could they not find a sober pic, or were her glassy eyes always rubbed red with bloodshot pain? We read obits while the dinner cooks, seeking signs of overdose and fellow friends of Bill W. A blurry woman who died too young at 50 peers through blonde feathered wings and 80s perm. She got by with a little help from Aquanet. black rings lining the dreamy look in her eyes above a baby-faced smile. She died from, they declined to say, probably heartbreak or exhaustion, chronic disappointment mapped out in pills, sick and tired of being sick and tired. She waited for it to get easier. It never did. One daughter, 2 children, 3 sisters. 4 sisters and their husband, brother, sister, who's already passed. 1 mother, 2 pets, no husband. There's rarely a husband when women die young. Women who survive into their 80s and 90s always have a husband. And so now I reconsider a second marriage. 2 well-educated single mothers dead at 54. This lady was a private nurse before she got sick. This one volunteered for the poor. That one soldiered against breast cancer. She was a spiritual leader, sharing her love for God's word. She was a giver, like women are trained to be. She cooked and baked for everyone. She gave too much. Maybe if they had given to her as much as she gave to them, she would still be serving. Maybe if she had taken care of herself, the loving way she cared for others, there would be a more recent photo. All right, sometimes you got to shake it off after those. So yeah, I think sometimes you're writing poetry and it's not only about putting words together in a way that is, catches your attention on a different level or, can help you think, but sometimes it's a continuation of your aesthetic. I was a women's studies major way back in the bachelor days, and I've always considered myself a feminist, and I've always looked at creating work that can also be empowering to women, and it's something that I continue to do. One of the projects that I'm still working on but is kind of on the back burner right now is a collection of essays about role models and about my own struggle to find a role model when I was very young, any kind of role model that didn't betray me on some level, I guess. I had a daycare teacher who I really looked up to. She was a minister's daughter, and she would took me to meet her dad and to the church, and she wanted to save me, and she gave me a personalized Bible with an inscription and everything, and she told me my mom was going to hell because my mom was an atheist, and it killed me. It really killed me. And so, I remember driving in a car one day with my mom, crying my eyes out, begging her to reconsider. I was like, Mommy, I don't want you to go to hell. And so finally I kind of had to come to terms with, a God worth worshiping wouldn't punish my mom just because she said she didn't believe in him. She was a good person and all that. But I found it hard to find somebody that, I could really, really identify with and really be inspired by for a long time. And then trying to find roles to play in theater plays, I couldn't, so I started writing them, trying to write somebody like me, because I wasn't the ingenue, I wasn't the cute little perky girl or anything. It's really all there was, that and moms, so now there's a whole lot more in 2020. There are a lot of varied, women of all kinds of diversity, so we've come a long way. But yeah, so in my spare time I'm kind of working on that as well. So we'll get back to the poems here. This is a very recent piece that probably one of the last pieces that I wrote that I managed to squeeze into the book right before it went to press. This is called Withered Honeysuckle. Second day of summer. Reading yoga mat sweat stains like Rorschach tests, like tea leaves, for the answers you refuse to give me, for hope. I'll soak up every ray of sun I can get on days when the humidity is so high we can't keep our faces dry, and no one knows if it's you or the exercise. Tears and sweat blend together in forlorn potion of eye sting. Love tried to look away, but now the motion's limited by swollen nerves, inflamed with disappointment. It was not supposed to end like this, in the middle, with love letters cursed. Limping into summer unbalanced, faculties lost, limbs missing, I shout into the digital void, a dizzying black hole of silence, my words dead on arrival. I have been deleted. This cannot be my destiny. I am a sore loser, aching and throbbing all over, rocked that the solid foundation keeping me straight for 7 years could dissolve in a firefly's flash beneath my trusting peasant feet, washing away in invisible waves. Your private ocean, so much you never let me see. Last week, the intoxicating fragrance of honeysuckle lingered in the air. Today, its resentful golden blooms wither scentless on the vine. So, that's that. I just want to take a break before the next one. For a long time, most of my poems were very positive, very optimistic, very celebratory, almost, so much that they were a little cheesy. And I would save all the dark stuff for my journal. And it's interesting how we evolve, how sometimes, you have to say the things that maybe aren't the happiest. But it's good. I mean, we look for that in art. We look for somebody who has experienced something like what we've experienced, who knows what it feels like. Am I the only one that ever felt this way? So there's a value in it. This next one is, I wouldn't say it's dark exactly. It's kind of tongue-in-cheek. I'm kind of making fun of some things. I think part of coming to terms with the parts of your life that didn't turn out the way you wanted to is, keeping a good attitude, being honest about it, but yet finding a way that to reframe it. Poetry helps us, I think, process those emotions, process the things that just don't make sense to us, that we don't understand. And so this is a piece that was really written to be performed on stage. But I still think it's kind of fun, and I think it's a good way to close out this reading. This is called Wage Slave Blues. I was supposed to be somebody important, too big for Scranton, somebody you respect, who you were here to see on purpose, who you would Google after the show. How did I become a tick mark in the disappointment column? I am too literal to be a poet, but I can't stop writing poems. I am too sincere to play the game. The sale sickens me with phony. I have to tell the truth. I get bent out of shape when people lie to me, and everybody lies. The underdogs are my people, the ones who will never meet your standards, no matter how hard they try. The ones who can't be bothered to try hard enough to impress you. We want to be liked, who doesn't, but it's not the priority. If you find me charming, it's an accident. Did you think the popularity contest would end with high school? Because I did. I was deluded by the dream adults would be evaluated on merit. By 31, we see the games have just begun, and the longer we live, the worse the odds. I trust my gut, that instinct which lives before contamination of thought. Is that authentic? Identity theft doesn't scare me. Who would want this? I make jokes to hide my failure. Take my identity, please. I fear my fingerprints will be worn down by the time the tech advances so that we can touch instead of remember passwords. I cannot snap, wink, or whistle. I am neither breast nor lip nor any other part belonging to a woman. They took out my ovaries and I was still me. Just a version that flashes hot and gains weight looking at your pizza. I say, "Hachoo!" when I sneeze. I tried to change it. Go ahead and try. It overpowers so quickly, it's half over before you can think to alter the sound. I used to be afraid all the time. Then I realized I am my own worst enemy. I am the woman my mother forgot to warn me about. These poems are supposed to be memorized, to sound like I just came up with it on the spot, but my day job ate my ambition for lunch and it didn't even save me half a sandwich. All I can offer is words on paper and a fast fading dream of what should have been. So that is a little taste of what nostalgia is.
No, that was great. I'm just blown away all the time. I mean, I was thinking a lot as you were reading them about the honesty and how you said earlier about pain becoming art, that it's okay to write about that. And we're all carrying some sort of burden or some sort of loss. So when somebody writes about it, you don't feel as alone. And, I think the ability of an artist and a poet and a theater person is to find those details. So it's not abstract, it's real, that you can connect with.
Yeah, you mentioned Allison LaRussa before we started talking today, and she posted something recently about toxic positivity. And I was just like, thank you. Because there is that pressure sometimes to like smile all the time. And, not every day is a good day. And that's okay. Like, that's normal. It should be all right to like not always be in a good mood. And every once in a while, like, I want to cry, and if my kid walks in the room, I don't want them to think that it's, the world is falling apart. Like, you just got to get that stuff out of you. You got to purge it and put your life back together and move on. It's part of life. Like, it's not a bad thing.
No, and Allison is actually our next guest, and I think you guys are kind of in dialogue, will be in dialogue, because she is an artist that also, talks about art becoming something positive. That doesn't necessarily mean it always has to be her, about being positive, but then it's taking that and making something creative out of it. So I think you also do that. I'm always touched by the compassion in your work. You notice other people's and notice them enough to write about them. So I think that also struck me. So I know you don't want to plug your book, but tell us more where our viewers can find you or buy your book, or, if they want to continue to follow your journey.
Sure. Well, I mean, it is on Amazon, so it's pretty easy to find. If you just type in nostalgia or Alicia Grega, it should come right up. There's an version, a PDF version that you can get on Blurb. That's the site I use to make my book. And I kind of want to say something about self-publishing for a minute, because I think for a long time, self-publishing was looked down upon, and we were in this society where the gatekeepers had to put their stamp of approval on your work, and I think partially because I was published in the newspaper for so long, I never really cared about getting that stamp of approval. Like, that's not what the work was about to me. I wasn't trying to become some like Pulitzer Prize winning poet or anything. It was just, this is me sharing what I have to offer. And so it can be really expensive too. I was thinking for a while, I should wait. I should, submit my book to chapbook competitions and try to win awards and all this stuff. But every one of those submissions costs money. And we're in a pandemic, and I know I'm not the only one that lost money this summer, and I just didn't want to wait for that. I don't think that, I don't know, like, I don't need anyone to tell me whether they think my work is good or not. So if somebody else decides that it doesn't count because, I know how to publish things, then, I don't know. I don't even want to say sorry about it. I think people should make what they want and really not worry about it so much.
Yeah, that's true. And I think that is the true spirit of the artist. So thank you for that. And then you also people can follow you on Instagram, and you have a rich presence, I think, online.
Yeah, aliciagrega.com is my website, and you can find links to pretty much everything there. So.
Well, thank you so much. Always a pleasure to hear your art. And, we'll get through the pandemic. And like you said, hopefully we'll be back, because I could see where that last poem could be performed. And, we hope your running line show gets back up. But in the meantime, we know that you'll be working to be an advocate for the arts and doing your own art. So really want to thank you, Alicia. Always good to talk to you.
Yeah, thank you so much for doing this program, Maureen. I don't know what the ratings have been, but I think it's a great way to get stuff out there and to help the artists, which is really important.
Our world changed. But I've been really happy. We keep gaining momentum. So it's housed on Electric City YouTube, and it's great to see the views increase. And I think people have appreciated as we're all trying to.
There's so much out there. It's.
Right.
I used to be overwhelmed with there's too many things to do, and then you figure, there's not going to be that many things to do now, but now there's like play readings and.
No, you send me always great stuff. So yeah, there is. You could literally spend like all day between that and Netflix and HBO. Like, it is a little overwhelming, but it's good. It's good to see people being positive during a difficult time and continue to make art. So, all right. Have a great night. See you
All
soon.
right, you too. Thank you.
Hi, Allison LaRussa. So good to see you. I miss seeing you in the real world, but like I was just chatting in the interview, we get to see each other at least online. So that's what this program's all about, Lackawanna Arts and Culture Live. So I'm looking forward to talking to Allison today. For those of you who may not know her wonderful work, she's been involved with our county programs for a long time, very supportive, very active. In fact, I have a couple Allison pieces. This is just a tiny one, but it's maybe small in size, but I think it's big in beauty and inspiration. I purchased this at, I think it was the Winter Market one year, and I keep it normally in my writing studio for inspiration. I love the way all of your, I don't know, themes and colors, and there's a lot of like movement, but also peacefulness in your work. So I'm excited to get to see your process. And I know you've changed and developed as an artist. That's why I like seeing your work online. So I'll encourage our viewers to. I'm doing a lot of talking, but it's really about you tonight. But I'm always excited when I have artists to showcase who I've worked with before. So the first question I usually start out asking with new and artists that I've known for a while, because we always get surprising insights into their life, is how did you start your personal artistic journey?
I feel like ever since I was young, I was always painting, I was always creating, I was always trying to make like unique little outfits. When I was like 10 years old, like I'd always be putting different things. When I would buy things as a child, I'd always try to put my own spin on it. And I feel like I was always creative in every art form since I was little.
So it's like a creativity you carry. But when did you start taking classes in school? Because one of the things we talk about on the show is how important that early exposure to have those arts and culture opportunities to kind of nurture that budding artist.
Yeah, I really I loved Dummer High School because we had a lot of art classes there, and I remember doing my first self-portrait there and the experience with that, and doing mixed media, like we did batiks. It really exposed us to all different types of art, which was nice. And then I really was like, I want to go to college for this, because I was so intrigued by the different forms of media and stuff like that.
So what medium are you working in these days? Has it changed since you started out? Do you kind of follow one path, or do you mix it up a little bit?
I've mainly been doing acrylics lately. I used to do oils a lot, but mainly acrylics because they're really quick. They flow really nice. Kind of where I'm at right now, acrylics work best,
Oh. What do you mean by where you're at? Like spiritually or just?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like I use my hands a lot. It's kind of messy. It's just like very free flowing with acrylics. They dry quick, so it's kind of just cool to layer and just get into it.
Well, that's a good segue because I use the word spiritual, and especially now during the pandemic. I mean, I think art is always healing, but I think people are really learning the value of art during this really difficult time. So another angle of you that's so beautiful, you really have chosen also a path of helping other people heal through the arts and art therapy. Do you want to tell, I know you're going to talk probably more about that as you're demonstrating, but do you want to give us a little taste of what that's like?
Yeah, so I've been in the drug and alcohol mental health field for about 4 years now. And that's when when I first started working in that field, I realized how therapeutic art really can be. And seeing others flourish in their confidence, like finishing a piece and being so proud of it and being able to release a lot of emotions that were pent up. I mean, it's really a spiritual and enlightening experience.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I'm excited to see you work. I will going to spotlight you, and then I'll jump back in to say goodbye and make sure people know. Well, you may as well just give us a little plug now. Where can we find you online? I know you do have a nice social media presence, so how can people continue to follow you if they want to?
So you can go on my Instagram, which is This Reborn Heart. And I also have an Etsy, which is Nature by LaRussa.
That's good. Great. Well, I know I'm excited to see that. I'm already peaceful looking at that, like at the background. So I'm going to feature you, and I'll jump out, and then we'll come back. Thanks so much, Allison, for being with us tonight.
Sounds good. Thank you. Hi, guys. I just wanted to show a little bit of the process with my art. Right here, I did a little bit of a mountainscape. Little bit of pinks on the top. Mainly my color palette is pretty neutral, pretty earthy. I really connect with a lot of earth tones. So I will show you a little bit into my painting. So really what I enjoy doing is very quick, kind of free-flowing strokes. With my art, I just feel like it just really gets the emotion out. And I also really like using my hands because I feel like that is real and raw and is able to really get out what I'm feeling. So I encourage you to finger paint. So a lot of what I do in work right now as well is I do a lot of art therapy at a drug and alcohol facility currently. And we do a variety of layered projects. We do creative writing, art therapy, music therapy. And it's just really beautiful to see people explore their creative side, because a lot of clients I have talk about never having the ability to paint since they were in kindergarten. So it's really cool to see them smile, to see them enjoy themselves, to see them get something out of it. Now I'm just making a little bit of mountains. So I'm just using a variety of earth colors here. Using some dark greens, some flesh tones, some golden, like yellow ochre, a little bit lighter than yellow ochre, but I really enjoy blending with my fingers. I mean, it's fun anyways, but I do enjoy just blending in some spots with my fingers. I'm a really big fan of Impressionism. I love the line work, the strokes in Impressionism. I feel like I can really feel the emotion in the piece. I'm looking at artwork from that period, so a lot of my work is inspired by that period. And obviously nature and landscapes, because nature is a very spiritual place for me, and it's a place I feel very grounded and connected. And the beautiful thing I love about art is there's no right or wrong way to do it. Art is subjective, and it's your own perception. And I think that is the really beautiful thing with art is it's your point of view, it's how you see the world, and it's how you see whatever you're creating. So that's why through working in this field, I feel like I see a lot of people being able to express themselves and hone in on what makes them feel really unique and really special. Because it's their own piece, and you give one art directive and everybody's piece is different, and it's just really cool to see that, you give them one topic and there's all these different pieces and all these different perceptions on life. I actually had the girls in my group last week do, it's called Landscapes of Emotion. So I had them think about their current emotional state and how that would be represented in a landscape. And this one girl was like, "Oh, I'm not doing it. I can't paint. I'm not doing it. I'm not going to embarrass myself." And, I was helping her kind of see. I gave her some pictures, some images, and throughout the process, she was smiling, she was happy. She was like, "I haven't painted since I was 5. And she was so proud of her piece. It was just such a cool experience because she had such doubt. And I think a lot of times with art, we think if it doesn't look exactly like the piece or exactly realistic, that it's not art. But to me, art is the most beautiful when it's raw, when it's real, when you can feel the emotion. And she, from that day forward, she continued to glow. She was just like, "I can't believe I did that. I never thought I could paint." And, her confidence was just completely boosted from 10 minutes of painting some mountains. And that's really, like I said, the most beautiful thing is having someone experience it in a safe environment, in a therapeutic environment, and really honing in on how they're feeling and how they can convey that through painting. So we're getting a little more mountains, a lot of different strokes. Like I said, I like a lot of loose, flowing strokes. I don't try to think about it too much. and just kind of try to let it flow out into what I'm feeling. So I really like to do a lot of earth colors and just like little pops of brighter colors. Just the contrast looks really nice with the green next to like a bright orange or a brighter hue. It's so funny too to see the process of some of my art, even like 15 years ago, was like really dark and totally different. So it's really cool to see where you're at in different phases of life and how your art reflects that. And I think that art for me is like my soul therapy. It's really just helps so much with anxiety and depression and releases so many pent up feelings, pent up emotions. And I think it's such a amazing therapy, especially if, you know, someone doesn't want to talk all the time. It's a really nice way to release things without having to do that. And I have to say, I'm just really grateful to be in a community that appreciates the arts, especially Maureen, and, you know, everyone at AFA. And, you know, I'm really grateful to be in Scranton where there's an appreciation for arts and arts culture, because I think that it's so important for development. I think it's so important for mental health. I think it's so important for substance use. And I hope more people can see the benefits and see that, you know, it's not just paint on paper, you know, it's therapeutic, it is helpful to the community. And I love really layering because it's kind of like you can see little pieces pouring through and kind of get some of that texture, you know. With oil, it's very easy to get the texture, but I feel like with acrylic, you know, you can do that as well and see all the layers of the piece and really feel like you're in it through layers. I love doing clouds, they're so fun. But just getting like these swirls through kind of using my finger and blending a little bit. A little water on the bottom because I love water in nature. And I feel really calm and peace and serenity by the water. I think this one's just about done.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was thinking as you were saying that there were so many beautiful things I wrote down. One, that the idea of flow came up a number of times, and you know, we sometimes think of the paintings, we just see them visually, but you know, watching you paint and thinking about you said about the hands, it's so beautiful, and it's so true that art, painting, it's all of us. And then we talked a little bit about even the soul and the mind, like it is this kind of oneness, this sort of flow. So it was actually, so it was a beautiful presentation just watching you, the words, and then it seemed like you made that painting in a blink of an eye. Like dance. That's awesome. It is so
Thank
beautiful.
you. Thank you.
The other thing was, it was nice to hear, I like when artists kind of talk about their influences, because then there's almost like a dialogue. So hearing you talk about the Impressionists was interesting, carrying on that sort of vision but making it your own. So That was really great. And I thank you for the shout out to our department and to me. I really appreciate that. But it was also thoughtful of you to mention the AFA and just community in general, as I think you're so right. It's certainly not just me or the department. It's everybody together. I mean, I took this job in 2008 and just seeing the level of commitment to community and using arts to revitalize place and help people is just really inspiring. It just keeps getting better. Even during the pandemic, there's been a lot of support and you know, it's just inspiring even during a difficult time that our art is still there. So this was lovely, Allison. I was so excited to have you on your show. Thank you for all your beautiful words and your beautiful art. You're a poet too, right? Did I forget to mention that you do write poetry?
Yeah, I like to write poetry too.
On your Instagram page, and you put up these great pieces of writing. So I should have mentioned that. And
thank you.
And I also love that idea. That's a great exercise about the emotional landscape. I think that's something we can all relate to. And what a great idea it is. And I, you know, to help us get, maybe use our thoughts to get us to a better place, you know, like to think and not let them own us. So a lot of great stuff. So again, we can find you at This Reborn Heart on Instagram. And what's your Etsy store name again?
Nature by LaRussa.
So we hope to have you on again, like I said, and hopefully when we're back in the real world, you know, like I said, you've been a big part of even back with Art in the Park. And I think one time we had you recycled art thing on Courthouse Square. So we continue that, you know, we'll definitely continue it on online for now. And then hopefully we'll be out sharing together in the real world too. But thanks again. Have a great evening. And
thank you. Thanks so much.
What I really loved about tonight's program was that emphasis on arts as healing and as a process to change our difficulties into something positive, whether it's on a global scale or on a very personal scale in our own lives. So we hope you can join us next month for another edition of Lackawanna County Arts and Culture Live. Thank you to Electric City Television, our partner, and Jess Mione, who always does our graphics. And be safe and healthy until we see you again.